Hello, for today's video I want to have a look at how I've created these cards. So I've foiled down in the corner here and then I've cut away part here and die cut the rest. So it's quite an interesting technique, doesn't take all that long to do and it's not as fiddly as you might think. Now this is a technique I've seen done by stampers to use an ink stamp at the edge of the card and then create their shaped aperture. So very much inspired by what they do, and I often think that hot foil stamping is very much like stamping with inks, but we're stamping with foil. So lots of the ideas you use for stamping with ink transfer to stamping with foil. So there's that card there, and I've used the lovely Spellbinder's Glimmer in Peonies hot foil plate on there, and then I've used a different hot foil plate set here to create a Christmas card. So I've foiled and cut away in the corners, and then behind there's a plate with the candles on it, all foiled separately. Now, as I say, doing both corners was very fiddly. It involved partially cutting the oval in 2 or 3 stages, so that's one to maybe come back to when you've tried this out a few times. So what I've got today is I thought I'd wanted to start from scratch, but in the interest of you being able to see where we end up, I've got one partly done. So I've got my card blank with my base mat on it, and then I've foiled and stamped on this layer, but I've not cut the aperture. I've got another piece of card with my inner aperture cut out of it, and I've got my stamping and my sentiment to go behind. So we'll see how those work in a minute, and you're probably wondering how you figure out how to get your hot foil plate in the right place. So let me put those on one side. Now, hot foil plates, I've tried this with lots of different ones. But the one I'm going to use today is this lovely rose. Now this is a Couture Creations hot foil plate, and lots of people got this bundled with their GoPress and foil. If you haven't got this hot foil plate, just use whatever you've got in your stash. Try something out. As you can see, I've tried lots of different ones. So as I say, use what you've got. I'm not here to sell you anything, I'm here to give you ideas. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to get, let me put these out of the way. I'm going to get a magnet that came with my stamping platform, and it's wrapped up in a nice big piece of masking tape so that it's got handles on it to get hold of. Okay, so it's a stamping press magnet. So I'm going to take my hot foil stamp and I'm going to put it in the corner of my piece of card that I've already cut the size, and I think this is something like 5 1/4 inch. Okay, decide where I want it. Now I'm going to get my cutting dies. You need some nesting cutting dies to do this as well. So my piece of card has been cut out with this one, and then my aperture is going to be cut with this one. You don't want to go too narrow around the edges, so that would end up about there. Okay, so you can see, you can judge where you've got your hot foil plate, whether or not it's too close to the edge, hanging over an edge. Now I've ended up with mine hanging over the edge here, so it doesn't matter if you do that. I did that with the peonies because it was just going to take up too much space otherwise. So let's see how that would be with my die in the centre. Let me turn it to the camera. So I'm roughly figuring out when I cut out where my die is going to be. And I think that'll be about right. I might go a little bit further across just to get that leaf in. And then this, I'm going to go down a little bit as well, and I've still got my magnet on the back, so I can slide this around and it doesn't just fall off. So my aperture would be cut somewhere like that. I think we'll go for that one, that position. So let's put my dies out of the way for now. I'm going to bring my foiling platform over. Now, when I'm normally working, I don't slide the hot plate off the base every time. I tend to stand up and lean over, but it doesn't work so well for the camera. So this piece of card will fit on here. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to put it. So I think I'm probably going to put it as far this way as I can and put the plate sort of at the top, because I find if I foil things right at the bottom, I don't always get good pressure right on that bottom sort of ½ inch. Okay, and then I'm going to tape my card in place. I'll tape it to the plastic edge here. Okay, and you're thinking, hang on, there's no foil yet. No. So I'm going to hold down the foil stamp, slide the magnet away. That's why you need a handle on the magnet. Put the magnet somewhere safe, and then I can flick that back. Okay, out the way. Now I'm going to put this back on the base. And I'm just going to show you how it's looking over there. Oops. Where are we? There we go. So I'm going to just flip my card out the way so it doesn't get heated with the hot foil stamp. Okay. So while I'm waiting for my foil stamp to heat up, I'm going to cut some foil. Okay, now I'm going to stand up again. So this is heating up, and I'm going to check the size and shape of my foil through the lid and trim it. I tend to fold it to kind of get my length. And then I'm going to cut the corners off at the top. And tape at the bottom. And then check it. And that'll do. That covers that nicely. That's getting nice and hot. I'll keep a small dustpan to hand to put all my waste bits in. Right, so this is just heating up again. And obviously I know my platform and my die cutting machine and my foils quite well, so I'm going to put some shims in, and I'm going to put 2 of these folded sheets of 250 GSM card, so that's 4 layers altogether, and that should give me then enough pressure. But if not, because I've taped the card to the edge here, if I need to lay it back down again, I can, and it will be in the right place. So there's my foil on, shiny side down and dull side up. Card shims. And now I'm going to roll it through my die cutting machine. Okay, so I'm going to flip this back and I'm going to lift the foil and check whether or not it's foiled nicely. And I think there's a few bits that aren't quite there. So I'm going to put it back down. I'm going for one more shimming. And when it's finished heating up, I'm going to roll it again. That looks better. I think it's quite a kind of sketchy design. So that's foiled. Let's take that off of there for now. And then I'm going to pull my card away. So here's my fold design. Okay, so I'm going to carefully peel my tape off the back, and I find the best thing to do is get an edge that's into the card rather than hanging over, and peel from there rather than peeling against the cut edge, because that is more vulnerable to tearing. And I'll keep my tape for later. Okay, so there's my lovely rose. So now I need to figure out where I'm going to put my square. So I've got my dies here, so I'm going to go for, I wasn't sure how big I was going to do, but I'm going to do this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down on my card. And with a square, it's quite easy to do this by eye, but you might want to take time and get a straight edge and measure and make sure it's straight. But for quickness today, I'm going to do it by eye. Now, I'm not going to cut it, not yet, but I am going to tape it down in a couple of places. It doesn't look straight. Sometimes I find that as I put tape on, things move. So, okay, and then I need a pencil. Now I need to thank John Lockwood for showing this, because this is how he does it. He draws around the inside of his die. It lets him know where he's going to need to cut away. Okay. know where to put my die back after I've finished cutting around my flower. So we've got that. Okay, pencil line around the flower, around the inside of the die. So I'm going to need a craft knife. And at this point you're probably thinking, oh no, not cutting all that with a craft knife. No, just to give myself a nice big hole to get my scissors in. So I'm going to cut around here in a big arc. And then go out towards my line, but not to it. And along. There we are. A nice big hole. Okay. Okay, so now I can get busy with my scissors. So now I want to cut around my flower. And I need to go a bit past the edge of it because I'll need to slide my die in a minute. Probably down to there. And I'm not going right up to the edge of my foiling, I'm leaving a white line. And if I decide I've left too much in places, I can go back and take a bit off. But I can't put card back on. Now, obviously, you would probably take a bit more time over this than I'm taking today. So I'm going, at this point, let me zoom in. So at this point, I'm cutting past my line. Okay, now I'm going to cut that piece of ace card off, and then I take my die, going back to the normal zoom, and I slide it underneath my flower, and if I cut far enough I can line it up so that I can, my pencil line is just around the inside of it. Okay, I'm going to take this in place and then show you what I've done. Okay, so the die, cutting side down, so it's underneath the flower, and you need enough of an extra cut here and down at the bottom so that it can actually slide into the right place. Okay, it's always a bit further than you think, or at least that's what I've found the first few I've done. Okay, and then your die is at the back here, under here. Now let me show you something. When I did this one, I need to zoom in. because I'm not sure you'll see it otherwise. Yeah, this is done on the same card I'm using, and it is 200 GSM, but it's a very, very, very smooth, very compressed card, so it's quite thin. And there's a line left in my foiling from the pressure of the die from the back. Okay, so to avoid that, I'm going to put an extra piece of card in. So I've kept the spare piece of card from where I cut out my square. So what I'm going to do is slide this in to that space there, and that will protect my foiling from the pressure in the die. So let's die cut that. That's it. Oh, he has marked it a bit still. Oh well. Okay, so then when I take my tape off, now this is very thin card and it has marked it, so next time I do this I'll probably use some thicker card. But there we are. I've now got a neat square aperture with my flower. So I'm just going to bring this back. So I've just temporarily taped this in place. So now I've got a square of card with the smaller die cut out of the middle of it, and that will go around there. This would go on the back, patch with some foam tape between, and have my sentiment, and then it all gets matted and layered. Okay, so let me show you the other one I was doing that's in a more complete state. So this is what I've done. So I've got butterfly in the corner, I've got a bit more foiling up here, and I've got a flower that's going to go in this corner, and then I've got some stamped butterflies. I've got my piece of card already cut to go behind, and then in the aperture there's going to be this that I've already prepared. Okay, now I've done that ahead of time, but you'd need to do it after you've done this stage, so you can actually use this as a guide to setting up your stamping platform, or for where, just to where to stamp. So you'd lay this over your piece of card. Yeah, you'd lay it over your piece of card to that stage, and then you can stamp into your aperture and then sort out your foam tape afterwards. So let's cut this one out. So I've already marked it out because doing ovals really does need to be measured and lined up carefully. I'm going to make myself a hole. And then I need to cut around my butterfly. Not going to leave my antenna too spindly. Okay, so now I need my other die set. So over here I've got some oval dies. So I'm going to cut with the bigger one. Slide that in. And then I can put it back in the same place it was when I drew my lines. I'm going to try and tape it down to the waist. Okay, so I've slid it in, taped it. There's my die with the rest of my waist card. There. I've already got my inner aperture already, so I can line that up. What I'm going to do is line that up and put some tape on the back. Needs to be a little bit further towards there. Oh no, some of this piece of tape. Let me get some more tape. Piece there, piece over there, there's that one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some wet glue under here. So I'm going to just kind of lift it up a bit at a time and put the wet glue onto the white card, just around the edges of my oval. A bit at a time. Make sure it's not squidging out. I'm going to do this corner where I haven't got any tape. I'm using a very fine nozzle on my glue, so I'm only putting a little tiny bit of glue at the back there. Having got those grabbed, then I can do these corners. There. Okay, so that's that stage. And then I need some foam tape. Now you could use foam pads, but getting everything to line up is more difficult. I'll show you why, because I'm going to do this the same way as I do when I'm matting and layering any card. I'm going to cut a strip, put it along there, doesn't matter if it doesn't quite meet. Okay, thought I was going to finish that roll, so I can take that piece and use it in a corner. Let the end stuck down. Now you might want to use thicker foam tape. You might be making this for a larger card. It's entirely up to you. I only want a little bit of depth. butterfly. There. So now I can bring that together with this piece. Now these both die cut exactly the same size, so long as I make sure I get things the right way up, all I've got to do when I'm sticking down is line up the edges, so I can do it upside down. Okay, so let me move that to one side. I'm going to release the backing on all these little pieces. I'm going to have to pick it up to do it. Okay, I'm going to way round. So check it's the right way round, so that's like that. Turn them both over. Okay, now I just release the corners of these long pieces. And fold the backing back. And you just have to do 2 corners, because then you've done an end of every piece of tape. So that's all my corners. Now I'm going to take some wet glue, and this stops it grabbing too quickly. And everywhere I've taken the backing off, I'm going to put some wet glue. Okay, I'm going to take my piece of card, make sure I got it the right way up, line up my edges, and I'm using the corners that haven't got anything sticky to do that. And then I can press it down. Now if you do find you've got a little edge sticking out, you can undercut round. But actually I think yeah, maybe on this edge I haven't. So now I take out the backing from my phone tape, and I'm just pulling it out at the edge. Okay, so then we've got that. And I've just, I think, not quite lined up at this far edge. So I'm going to take some scissors, and I'm going to cut the back piece of card, and I'm sliding my scissors in between the 2 pieces of card. I don't know if I can get that on camera very well, but I'm just trimming the back edge, just so as it doesn't show. Keeping the scissors angled. There. Right, so all I need to do now I put this down on top of the GoPress and foil, and I probably shouldn't have done that. straighten that out. So now I just need to put this on here. So I'm going to use double-sided tape. You might want to use more foam. It's that same pattern, so just going not as far as the corner on each side. It's a bit long, so I'm going to peel that back before I go any further. Okay, so now what I do is I peel back the corners. So just peeling those two corners. I like to put a bit of glue in the middle. That's my personal preference. Line it up on the mat layer. And until I press down in those corners that I've picked up, I can move it. So there and there. Take out the tape. There we are. And I'm sitting over here, I've got my flower ready to go on. There we are, finished card. So there we are. Thank you for watching.